Ms. Collier? Ms. Gagnon?
Present.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Paleschi?
Here.
Ms. Seelander?
Here.
Ms. Serafino?
Here.
Dr. Serrano?
Here.
Mr. Wood? Mr. Morris?
Here. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are now going to go into closed session where we're going to speak about personnel, legal, and a HIP hearing.
Have a motion.
Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Felt like you were going to.
Okay, welcome, everyone. We're going to resume open session. Can we get a roll call, Joanne?
Ms. Collier? Ms. Gagnon?
Present.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Pleshy?
Here.
Ms. Seelander?
Here.
Ms. Serafino?
Here.
Dr. Serrano?
Here.
Mr. Wood?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here. All right, we're going to start this evening. We have a couple presentations. We're going to start with the audit presentation from BKC Auditors.
Laura, the PDF is up there. If you use the down arrows,
Just
you'll
the
be able to
down
scroll
hours.
through.
Okay. Do I have to turn on the mic or anything, or is it already on?
Good.
Good?
There
Okay.
you go.
Our projects that we have going on, and we're looking at the internal controls. There's a lot of compliance that's involved with the state as to what we're supposed to be doing. They provide us a 700-page document to review every year, and then we compile those results into the audit. Now, the management report at the very end of it is where you would see if we had any suggestions or recommendations for your district. I'm pleased to say that we don't have any. This is a great sign. It means that your business office has done a lot of great things during the year. They're keeping up with the statutes, and if there are any improvement areas, we do go over them with Joanne and her team. They might just not be to the extent that needs to be brought to the board's attention. If there are any questions from the board, feel free to stop me at any point. I do like to think of this as more of a little discussion rather than me rambling on the entire time. Think of this as more of a little discussion rather than me rambling on the entire time. If you think of something that later down the line that maybe after I leave tonight, you're more than welcome to reach out to your superintendent, Joanne, or myself directly, and I can always answer those questions as they come up. Any questions so far? Seeing none, we'll move on to our financials. So starting with our revenues. Sorry, it's gonna be a little hard to navigate these papers. We had $82,953,000. This was an increase of $5,788,000 since the prior year. We received about $3,900,000 in grants, of which COVID grants included $572,000 of this money. You'll notice that the last few years we had a lot of funding coming through relating to COVID, and then this year was the last year of it. The very beginning of 24-25 might have a little bit left over, but by the time we're done with the year, it's gone. And I expect that graph when we get to it for the federal sources to pretty much plummet. When comparing to 10 years ago, you'll notice that we had an increase of $16 million compared to then. Another item that we had received this year that's different than prior years is the preschool expansion aid. So one of the categories that we're going to see is a change between your tuition receipts that came from your parents, and then we're going to see the change happening in the state side of things. So on the first set of graphs on page 2, you'll notice the top left-hand corner, we just have a breakdown of the current year revenue, what makes up that portion. The biggest portion is going to be your tax levy, the green portion. A smaller portion is going to be your state sources. Other parts of the state, this would be completely opposite. The blue portion would make up the biggest portion for them. For example, if you were in Bergen County. For the tax levy, though, the problem with this area is that the state keeps making cuts every year, and every time that happens, we have to make up for those cuts. So you'll see that that pie keeps getting, the bigger green piece keeps getting bigger and bigger every single year, while the blue portion usually is decreasing. On the right, you'll see the tax rates for the last 10 years. You'll notice that there's a slight change at the very beginning, where between 2015 and 2016 we had a revaluation where the town just kind of had the properties revaluated, and then it kind of shifted things around. It didn't necessarily mean that you paid any more or less than before. It just kind of adjusted the tax rate to get things more aligned with the market. For the last 10 years, again, you'll see the tax levy growing over that time, but for the most part, it's pretty steady, that increase. With the state sources, this graph is misleading this last year because it does look like it went up, but in reality, that was because of our preschool aid. So it does make it a little misleading when we're considering that. When looking at the tuition, you'll see the opposite happening where we had the decrease there because now instead of receiving the money from the parents, we were receiving from the state. And then the federal sources, over the last 4 years, we had those increased funds coming in from COVID, and then we're expecting this graph to actually drastically decrease in the subsequent year. Additionally, with our miscellaneous income, you'll notice over the last few years, we've had quite an increase. It's thanks to our bank rates. The interest rates happening over the last few years have increased, and hopefully they continue that way. As for the expenditure side of things, our operating expenditures were approximately $74,605,000. Our largest increase in operating expenditures was instructional costs and employee benefits. When comparing to 10 years ago, our overall expenditures had increased $18 million, and our expenditures increased compared to 10 years ago, largely due to our instruction and student-related services. With our next set of graphs as an auditor, we love 10-year comparisons. We love data, we love patterns that are associated with it, and the biggest thing for us is that we're able to explain when these patterns change. So with instruction, this area, we did see increases over the last 10 years. Our special instruction is also going in that same direction for the most part. Our tuition is one of the hardest categories to really control because a single student alone, when they're going to another district or a special needs district, could easily cost the district well over $100,000. And that's just for the tuition. That doesn't include the piece that goes into the student instruction related services, which is your therapy services. So if you have occupational therapy or your physical therapy, it would show up in another category. And then in addition to that, you have your transportation component. And that piece would also be increased by a student going to another district because now they have to go to that place somehow. With the student instruction related services, this across the board at all of my districts has been the largest increase. And most of it, in my opinion, has been due to the changes that the state has really made over the last 10 years. It seems like every year or every other year, they're coming up with new pieces to the school district that are required. The smaller districts are definitely affected by this a lot harder than our larger districts, but you do see that we're also affected here too. With the student instruction related services, this would be our child study team, our guidance, our training of the teachers. So over the last 4 years, one of the biggest initiatives that the state had was to better provide our students with transitioning back into the school and their mental health awareness problems going on, as well as the teachers. And you'll see that in this category. So over the last few years is why you kind of see a spike happening. Other increases might be happening because now the state encourages the school districts to have all sorts of different acronyms for individuals that specialize in things. So for example, we now need a BCBA at a lot of districts. Every year there's a new acronym. I have no idea what half of them mean sometimes, but that's another reason why you see this category often increase. Our general administration is typically an area that we don't see much fluctuation in. It's pretty steady. It's primarily your business office and your main office. The plant operations and maintenance, depending on your building, how long ago it's been since we've made a lot of improvements, might vary for how much we're actually needing to make a lot of maintenance improvements. And then we'll see when we get to the reserves how important those reserves are related to this category, because when you do see those increases, you like to, or you're hopeful that your reserves are able to help offset those increases during that same year. With pupil transportation, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of changes happening and how difficult it is to get our bus drivers filled in those positions. So you do see a lot of the schools struggling to keep that category lower. And then the employee benefits, we've done a pretty good over the last few years, or I'm sorry, over the last 10 years, kind of maintaining those costs, even though it's a difficult area to maintain. And then we've also had the shift with the self-insurance over the last few years. So we're interested to see how that kind of works over the long run. Now, when everything is received and we've paid out our bills, we are left with our fund balance, which we had $1,691,000 set aside for capital reserves, $861,000 for maintenance reserve. We had encumbrances, which are items that we had ordered but not yet received at the end of the year. This was $557,000. There was excess surplus last year of $570,000, which is now being utilized in our 24-25 budget. The current year excess surplus is $798,000, which will be used in the future upcoming budget that we'll be preparing for just around the corner for 25-26. And then our maximum allowable unrestricted fund balance was $1,977,000. Again, with our graphs, we have a breakdown of what really made up the current year reserves, but more importantly we like to look at the 10-year activity. The restricted, which is our excess surplus, for the most part has been pretty much the same except for a couple years. You'll see that there was kind of a dip between 21 and 22, but at the same time there was actually an offset with the assigned balance. It just kind of shifted from one category to another. The encumbrances, this category, we do expect to fluctuate quite a bit from year to year since it is items that we had ordered but not yet received at the end of the year, or maybe we had asked a company to come in to make improvements to the building and they can't necessarily come in until the students have left for the year, so they might not have happened until the end of the summer. With the unrestricted, if you recall back in 21 and 22, the state allowed us to go from a 2% maximum allowable to a 4%, and then we had brought back down to, in 23 and 24, we're back down to 2%. So that's why you do see that temporary increase. With the unrestricted, the state does have a pretty low threshold as to how much you can have in this category. One of the contributions to this category is any extraordinary aid or non-public aid that we had received. The problem with extraordinary aid is that you have to spend it in order to get it, and you don't find out how much you're going to get until after the year's end. So now you can't use it until the following year. The other issue with extraordinary aid is that every year the formula changes. So one year the state might say, okay, you spend $100,000, we'll give you 50% of those costs back. The following year, they'll up it to 70%. And then you're thinking, oh great, they're gonna keep giving us more. No, next year they drop it down to 40. So it's not very predictable. It's one of the categories that when we get to the budget season, I usually do encourage my clients to not budget in this category or be very conservative because you don't know how much you're ultimately gonna receive. With our reserves, the capital reserve, you'll see that for quite a bit of time we had built up those reserves, and over the last few years we've been utilizing those reserves in order to help the projects that we've been going on. The long-range facility plan is really the driver as to the maximum allowable. You'll notice that we're at about 15% of that maximum. Now, there could be a laundry list of items on here. So the important thing for the district is obviously to evaluate what items on that list are most important. And then as we've been doing over the last few years, utilizing those funds that we've been building up, we are to the point where it does feel that we probably need to start rebuilding those reserves in order to help kind of address the capital reserve items that the long-range facility plan has coming up over the next 5-10 years. Our maintenance reserve is another category that's very interesting with the state because the calculation is based off of the square footage. And then they take the square footage and they apply it against a dollar amount, which is like $143 per square foot. And the state hasn't changed that number in years. What's interesting about not changing it is that we all know how much the cost for maintaining things, or our own homes especially, has really gone up. I mean, I bought a window about 4 years ago. It was $150 maybe. I bought the same window about 3 or 4 years later, and it cost me almost triple. I was at almost $400, I think, for this window. So Now, that's just for one window. I can only imagine how much it costs in order to go through the entire building of a school district, especially with the older buildings. So that's why this category is one of the most important ones, even though the threshold, the maximum allowable that the state sets is pretty low for what I think it should be. It's important for us to build that reserve so that we can help offset that other category of the expenses where we had the plant operations and maintenance. So every time we might see a spike in that, we're able to use the reserves that we've been building over the years in order to help offset that increase that we had for that year. Obviously, our driver for everything is our students. So with our enrollment, 10 years ago, we had 3,328. This year, we had 3,255. So while this is a decrease of 2% in the last 10 years, this is actually a 1% increase over the last 5. Most school districts, especially in neighboring counties, we're seeing a 28% decrease for the longest time between the 10 years. And then I kept telling my districts, at some point we're going to start studying out. And we're finally starting to see that happen. And Sparta has been one of the fortunate districts where the enrollment hasn't drastically shifted one way or another. It might have shifted in one building versus the other, but not necessarily as a district as a whole. Are there any questions?
You already knew. The first question I have regarding, and it's a little specific, so we can email if it's more appropriate, but
Okay.
regarding transfer to charter schools, it looks like we increased about 240,000 at about 88 to 89% compared to the year prior. Would you say that that's average? Would you say that that's high?
I would actually have to defer to Joanne for that question.
So I could speak to that
Okay,
for you.
perfect. I meant
So,
more trends across districts, but by all
yeah,
means.
so what happened specifically for Sparta with these numbers is there were some special education students that were in the charter schools, and it's a funded formula, again, from the states. It's how they do the formula, and that is what the significant increase is due to. Again, it's just the funding formula of the state.
The one shift that you did see over the last 4 years, during COVID around 2020, you saw a significant decrease in the number of students that were actually going to the private schools. Maybe not necessarily charter schools, but they weren't going to the private schools for a couple years, and now we're kind of seeing that increase again, which might be one of the reasons why you see your tuition kind of increase over the last couple years too.
Super helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us tonight. I hope you have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Again, if you think of anything else, you're more than welcome to reach out. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the district technology plan. We'll have several speakers here.
There it is. Yeah.
Your 3 minutes starts now.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm actually going to speak less for a change, and I'm just going to introduce the technology plan and let Mr. Rivers and Ms. Rossi take over from there. But I'll explain how we got to this point. So, as everyone knows, we had a strategic plan over the past couple of years, and part of that strategic plan was to do a technology audit and then a subsequent or resulting technology plan. So what is going to be presented this evening is the final product of the technology plan. But that came out of the needs that were introduced and the recommendations that were introduced for the strategic plan and the strategic plan action plan. Some of what you'll see tonight will be from the technology audit as well. We contracted with an outside entity to come in and do a technology audit for us. That helped with inventory, and it also helped with recommendations, less on the device end and more on the infrastructure end. And we took all of that information along with input from teachers and from students and from some of the community, and came up with the technology plan. Ms. Rossi and Mr. Rivers really did a lot of the heavy lifting on this project, so I'm actually going to get out of the way and let them take over for that.
Thank you, Dr. Beck. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. So for us, when we were implementing this tech plan, we really were interested in making sure that it did something and that it wasn't just a description of what is, but instead was more focused on what was going to actually happen, action kind of being that key word there. And so when we were focused on those verbs, the actions, we reached out to our professional communities. We took some courses at Texpo. We did everything we could to make sure that we did this in a way that was effective. And their advice, their guidance, all of the best practice out there talks about using a cycle to really consider what this tech planning looks like. We hopefully will be in a similar situation 3 years from now to readdress and to continue on this cycle of planning and kind of anticipating the needs of our district, especially in terms of technology. The other, of course, important piece that we learned from all of these districts is that it is important, of course, to plan and to act and to collect data, to reflect all of those things are valuable, but that ultimately it is about taking that kind of external best practice and combining it with what we learn locally from our teachers, from our students, from our community members, and really thinking about what the experience of our schools looks like and how that can really kind of be honored here. So when we think about kind of even the planning step, even that is kind of cyclical in nature. And so we ultimately really did start with educators and really reflecting on what is technology doing for you. In some questions, that's about the big picture. Where do you see it kind of going and helping you in your responsibility for the district? But also, what are the kind of everyday ways in which technology is affecting your practice and affecting your craft? From there, we took all of that feedback and consolidated that, and we're able to kind of distill that down into 4 big goals. Those goals are big picture. They are vision kind of ideas, but they are difficult to measure. And so from there, we continued to come back to our educators, come back to our teams, and consider how can we turn that into actionable objectives, real things that we can see happen in our schools and in our communities. And so from there, we've kind of come back to refine those goals and to really think about how are we coordinating those efforts across buildings and across our district to really make sure that all of this technology is kind of pushing us in the same direction.
So we did some interesting things. We actually leaned on the resources of AI, and we took this big feedback, all of this feedback that we collected that ranged from such diverse stakeholders in terms of what their feelings, beliefs, needs were. And we were able to synthesize that into like 4 core buckets, which are these goals that you see. And then we went back and we looked at that and we tweaked things and we changed things a little bit, and we made sure that almost all of the feedback actually fit somewhere into these goals, and they did. And so these are the 4 big goals that you see driving our plan. So the first is to use technology to engage communities, and that is a range of communities, your classroom community, our local community, communities abroad. How can we connect and engage communities to collaborate and learn? Finding a balance between digital and interpersonal learning. So obviously there was a time when there was a push to be one-to-one and used personalized learning platforms. Those things are important, but we learned a lot through COVID, and we learned that virtual learning isn't the answer exclusively. And so how do we balance the evolution of the digital space with the important needs of interpersonal learning and connections between students and people? The need to support professional development and capacity building. Obviously, there are things that are changing rapidly. So even how do we use things like AI, which are questions we asked ourselves when Google and search engines became popular? Like, what does that mean for us? What's okay, what's not okay? And how do we lean on one another to learn those things along with outside professionals? And the last goal talks about innovative learning experiences to enhance connection and accessibility. So how do we explore new tools that will lead us to new outcomes and new goals? How do we ensure that we have access to our diverse learning population so they can be a part of the learning in every capacity? Once we boiled these goals down, we got some feedback on that. Whoops. So we said, oh, hold on. oh, this is it. We said, okay, so with that feedback you provided to us, we believe they fall into these 4 categories, these 4 buckets, but we want your feedback on those things. And so we used a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 5, looking at how significant these goals might be to your instruction, to your students, to your classroom. And we found that every goal was in some ways moderately or significantly important to everyone. And so we felt that this put us on the right track. And so then we were able to, as Mr. Rivers said, unpack these goals a little more specifically. And this is what you'll see inside our plan that will be linked for you to review. And so it's organized by goal. But of course, the goal is like the big idea, and the objective is what's actionable, like what can we do to achieve such an idea. And you can see that it's broken up by our elementary population and our secondary population, or our district at large. So when you look at these goals, you can see examples underneath them, things like using digital meeting platforms to support reading buddies, or providing learning opportunities for parents to understand the features of Google Classroom. They're more extensive, but these are just samples for you to see as we're talking here. Again, we have our second goal. We have some examples underneath them. It was really exciting work to have our staff get together to communicate and share and collaborate on the different needs and hopes of the district. And as we continue to look through them, it's also exciting to really have a focus for our efforts and for our resources to ensure that our time is spent on the right things, and that we'll be able to look back and see all that we have achieved. So that's a little bit about what the plan itself looks like, and some samples for you to see here, but that you can really review if you choose to look at the link that will be provided on the website.
The other core component of our tech plan, and really being able to kind of project out over multiple years, is to really think about some of those projects that do take a long time, specifically on the infrastructure side of things, that when we find ourselves in a responsive space where we're just kind of waiting for something to break or go wrong, that can get very expensive, and that can really interrupt the education that our students are experiencing. And so the infrastructure component of this plan allows us to think about, A, what are the things that we need to be considering and anticipating in terms of needs, but B, how can we start to think about some of those long-term, multi-year kinds of supports that might help to improve the overall learning or the overall connectivity of technology. Again, we see that it's, of course, tied into so many different things. And so while many of those goals, of course, are tied to what teachers are doing, what's happening in our classrooms with our students, this infrastructure will also certainly affect our kids and our communities and the school itself at large. So our next steps are really to continue on with that cycle. This is the plan component that we are here to present to you. And so now we are acting, collecting data, and reflecting. And that's an ongoing process. You can see that this plan is laid out to kind of continue on through 2027, but that the acting, the collecting data, and the reflecting is ongoing. We do ask, and we are especially interested in community feedback at this point, that to take some time as a family and give us your insight, please. What are the things that you are noticing and experiencing? The more this conversation has extended beyond educators to include students, to include family members, gives us insights to blind spots that we may have had throughout our kind of technological journey and process that has kind of brought us here. And we also do just want to give a huge thank you to all of those different community teams. Again, we had people in every single building. We had people at the district. We had, of course, the support of our community through this. So as we continue on and continue to reflect, we do hope that that is a shared experience as well. So thank you very much. And of course, if you have questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Surprisingly, no. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's 8 minutes and 24 seconds.
Thanks, man. Good job. Thank you.
Okay. I know. I thought it would be longer with Tara. Good job, Tara.
Getting to that point.
We're going to move on to Chad with the board goals action plan presentation.
Hello, everybody. Ready? We're good?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for taking your time to join me today. As you know, recently we passed our board goals, so now we're moving on to our board action plan, which I'm really excited to go over for you tonight. Just to show you some of the steps in our process, we began with the formation of new board goals and our mission statement, and we received board approval. Then we were on to the formation of our new action plan, and tonight we're getting board approval. After that, we're moving on to the formation of our Gantt chart, which is an internal document to just track our progress and see how we're doing. And following that, we're going to be quarterly reporting to you just to keep you updated and in the loop. Oh my goodness, my eyes are poor from up here. Moving on to some of our board action plan items. And just to look at the goal up top, I tried to shorten them down a little bit just to make it a little easier for you to understand rather than our very long goals. But to begin, we want to complete a thorough policy wellness check in collaboration with the NJSBA. I apologize on that. I'm going to walk a little closer. I'm not a teacher. I don't have professional eyes. But, should I? Okay. Oh, yes, perfect. Perfect. All right. So to begin, we're going to complete a thorough policy wellness check in collaboration with the NJSBA, or the New Jersey School Boards Association, ensuring district policies are up to date and aligned with strategic goals, alongside identifying areas of improvement. Following that, we're going to begin accumulating board training hours by attending NJSBA-approved sessions, targeting at least 4 hours of training this year. And just for some reference, it is about 16 hours total, so splitting it up yearly is going to be a good way to start and see how we pace. And finally, we want to initiate the first phase of the board self-evaluation process, focusing on gathering feedback and identifying priority areas for improvement. And I'm not going to read every section of the chart. We have the people responsible, the resources needed, and our benchmarks. But as long as we're on track, we're doing well, and our Gantt chart is going to ensure that. On to our next goal, which is essentially passing CUSAC and identifying areas of improvement. We've established the CUSAC committee and are providing targeted staff training in CUSAC categories. Following up, we're going to schedule workshops with the NJSBA to review each CUSAC category and identify areas of improvement, especially on a board level. And thirdly, we're going to develop a district-wide CUSAC improvement plan focusing on weaker performance areas. On to our third goal of promoting grant exploration. We're establishing a partnership with the Millennium Strategies for Grant Writing Services, and we have accomplished this so far. And we are exploring grants or district-specific grant opportunities, focusing on securing grants that directly align with the district's educational and operational priorities. On to our fourth goal of a policy wellness check and audit initiation. We want to collaborate with the NJSBA to audit existing board policies and organize them into a living document for tracking revisions. Following that, we're going to prioritize and schedule policy updates based on district needs, starting with the most outdated policies. And we're going to present policy updates to the board and seek formal approval for implementation. And last but not least, we are supporting the district strategic plan. We want to review the district strategic plan and identify areas where the board can offer targeted support. We want to schedule regular check-ins with the district leadership to discuss progress on key strategic action items and provide feedback for guidance. Conduct mid-year and end-of-the-year reviews of strategic goal progress, offering recommendations for adjustments and improvements if needed. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And additionally, you can find it on the district website. So if this was a handful tonight, you can take a look and look through all of our different plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Anyone from the board have any questions for Chad? No? Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on to the student representative report. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Over the past month, winter sports have all started, so they're all up and running. DECA just held their Candygrams fundraiser. The food drive for the Sparta Food Pantry was just finished. The Student Council ran a Holiday Spirit Week this week, and seniors on the Student Council are putting together a senior class trip to an amusement park.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Dr. Beck with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. As this is the last board meeting for Mr. Palesci, Ms. Solander, and Dr. Serrano, I wanted to acknowledge my sincere gratitude for their years of service to the Board of Education and their immeasurable support. Dr. Serrano is actually one of the final 2 remaining board members that were on the board when I was appointed. Thank you. And the other is remaining is Mr. Morris. Craig and Wendy came onto the board early in my tenure here, and we certainly have endured some very challenging times and have persevered in the best interest of our students and school community. Thank you for the countless hours you have dedicated to your role as board members, and I look forward to your continued support as parents and as community members. I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge that this evening's board meeting is the last board meeting for Ms. Black as she begins her retirement journey at the end of December. I would once again like to thank her and wish her well in her next chapter. We are looking forward to working with Ms. Decker as our new BA beginning on January 1st. Friday, December 6th was one of my favorite days where Ms. Rossi and I got to go into each of the buildings and surprise/embarrass our Governor Educators of the Year. It's always a great day to be able to acknowledge our Educators of the Year, but they are really just prime examples of the very fine educators we have across the district. So once again, I already shared it with the community, but I'd like to read their names here, and we will also acknowledge these Educators of the Year at the February board meeting formally, as we have in the past. But in Alpine, the Teacher of the Year was Amy Dolan, and the Ed Specialist of the Year was Danielle Drummond. At Mohawk, the Teacher of the Year was Shannon Sullivan, and the Ed Specialist was Caitlin Schwaghart. Helen Morgan, Teacher of the Year was Kelly Daugherty, and the Ed Specialist was Candace John. At the middle school, Charlene Molnar was the Teacher of the Year, and Colleen Geddes was the Ed Specialist of the Year. And at the high school, Ms. Tina Johnson was Teacher of the Year, and Laura Amin was the Ed Specialist of the Year. So congratulations again to those fine educators. One retirement to acknowledge on this evening's agenda, that would be Ms. Kim Nab. Ms. Kim Nab is a school counselor at Sparta High School, and she has served our district for 18 years. So thank you to her for her service. National Art Honor Society. Art students at National Art Honor Society of Sparta High School had the opportunity to decorate the New Jersey State tree this year for the National Christmas Tree Lighting in Washington, D.C. Over 30 students participated, upon which 22 were chosen by the National Tree Team to be copied into ornaments. Giselle Faria's drawing of a New Jersey diner was chosen for their website. On Saturday, December 7th, our German students performed authentic German Christmas songs at the German Christmas Market of New Jersey. It was a wonderful event where a variety of students from all levels of German classes sang together. This is the 23rd time that our German students have been asked back as performers, and we are proud to keep this tradition going. This year's What's Your Anti-Drug Contest was held, and over 500 entries representing 28 schools in Sussex County were submitted. The winning entries were featured in the Sunday, December 8th, New Jersey Herald for the What's Your Anti-Drug Supplement. And from our school district, the What's Your Anti-Drug features were from Helen Morgan School, Antonella Kistner, and from Sparta Middle School, Charles Kane. And the newer category, which is for grades K to 3, What Makes You Happy, from Alpine Elementary School, Anindya Nair was featured. A referendum update. The January board meeting will be a busy one when it comes to moving forward with the referendum. The team and I met with our architect and engineer last week and gave additional input on the AES addition plan as well as the planned upgrades for the other buildings. The architect is now finalizing all of the plans, and we will present the final plans for board approval at the January meeting. Also at the January meeting, we hope to appoint a construction manager and public relations manager. Lastly, I would like to wish everyone a safe and happy winter break and wish everyone a happy new year. I look forward to working alongside our staff, administration, Board of Education, and school community in 2025 for what will certainly be a landmark year for our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Ross, do you have anything? No, perfect.
Share the technology.
Oh, yeah, it's enough. She's done tonight. President's report, I just want to speak on the anti-drug presentation. I did have the opportunity to attend that luncheon, and I was one of the judges for that. I don't know if I voted for those students. The amount of drawings that were done through the county was tremendous, and like the work that some of these kids put in, it wasn't just artwork. A lot did poetry, a lot did letters, and it was a good time, and it was hanging with people from communities and all of the county. So it was nice to see every school participated. So that was a fun event. And to the 3 that are leaving, I just want to thank you guys for being here, and you'll be missed. Somewhat. Okay, moving on. If we get a motion to move the HIB report and the 11-1 and 11-2, the HIB appeal, which Mr. Zittimer will read now. Second?
Wait, I haven't read it yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
This is going to be 11.2. It's going to say resolved that the board affirms the finding of HIB in case number HMS 100-224-001, and be it further resolved that the parent shall be provided with a formal written decision along with information on their right of appeal to the Commissioner of Education.
Thank you. Now can I get a motion for 11-1 and 11-2? Thank you. Caitlin, second.
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. Joanne, discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pellecci?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes to 11-1, no to 11-2. Okay, delegate liaison reports.
I have two.
You have the town council one?
What's that?
Town council?
Town council, yeah, town council and CPAC. On December 9th, Dr. Beck and I met with our town council for our monthly meeting. The main topic involved the potential implementation of various forms of signage across township and school properties. We will hopefully have some more specifics to report out at next month's meeting, but as always, it was a very productive discussion, and we appreciate their continued collaboration. On November 20th, Emily and I had the pleasure of attending the virtual CPAG presentation for Sparta parents. It was their first of the year. The presentation focused on the Nurtured Heart approach, a strategy designed to assist children in developing self-regulation. One thing I just wanted to point out about the presentation, of course, including the parents and the guest speaker, I was especially moved by the number of educators, professionals, and support staff that attended the event in the evening. The fact that Sparta has such dedicated staff members committed to the betterment of all students was on full display that night, and I walked away feeling very inspired by the conversation. I especially want to thank Ms. Castorina and Ms. Shepperman for all they do to coordinate CPAG events like this, and I'd also like to encourage parents to attend these events and support the initiative here in Sparta.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, perfect. We'll now move on to public comment number 1. Public comments are invited on all matters pertaining only to action items at this time. Please state the action item number as well as your name, municipality, and group affiliation, if appropriate. For the record, each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have the allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted again to speak until public comment number 2. All statements will be directed to me as presiding officer. The board or the administration may or not respond to questions or comments at the conclusion of the public participation. Does anyone have any comments? Motion to close.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can I get a motion to move personnel and policy?
Yeah, I
Yes,
would
1
just,
second.
I would just like to strike 15.13.
So a motion to move 15.1 to 15.12, and then 15.14 to 15.34. Thank you. Emily, second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pellecci?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Can I get a motion for curriculum 16.1 to 16.10?
Motion?
Thank you, Chad. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. Discussion?
Could I actually say something quick that I wanted to say earlier, but for the committee, for curriculum?
Yeah.
Just light discussion. I just want to say, it's so exciting seeing all the good work that is being done, especially with Ms. Rossi at the helm. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the work they do with the gifted and talented kids. It's definitely changed over the last 10, 15 years. And all the work is really positive, and it's putting it in a due direction. And I appreciate all the initiatives being taken. And I don't know if it's too early to say with the Mr. Scognomilio class, but Mr. Scones with the XFIS has a lot going on, and he's doing a lot of exciting work in the Sparta High School. So I think he deserves a little shout out, doing a lot of noteworthy work.
Thank you, Chad. Roll call, Joanne?
Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pleshy?
Yes to everything except for 16.7, which I have to abstain from.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Can I get a motion for finance 17.1 to 17.7?
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Second. Thanks, Emily. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pleshy?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
I need to abstain from 17.7 since I currently sit on the cheerleading boosters. Everything else is a yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Thanks for your final roll call. It was very touching. It was nice.
Did you like that?
Okay, we have nothing for operations. Moving to old business.
New business? Oh,
No, that new business is second.
Old before new.
It's the second time.
I guess I just want to also give a little shout out to all the Sparta students who participated in the Sparta ornament participation, and not also including the kids not in National Art Honor Society. I remember when I was maybe in 5th grade participating in that, and I think it's really nice that we still do it year to year. So that's always a good tradition to keep.
Seems like yesterday, right, Chad? Anyone else for old business? New business?
I've got something if no one else would like to lead.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to take a moment to discuss an important issue for us to consider, whether we should allow cell phone antennas, towers, and other types of signal boosting technology on our school property in light of our technology audit, our plan, so I just thought this would be relevant for us. I think while we all recognize the importance of reliable cell service, it's crucial that we also consider the potential risks posed by these structures and technologies. The growing concern is not just about cell towers, but any form of signal boosting technology, whether it's small antennas, repeaters, or 5G equipment that could be placed on or near school grounds. These technologies emit electromagnetic radiation, and there is increasing worry about the long-term health effects on our students. The Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, safety guidelines were last updated in 1996, which means they've not been revised in nearly 3 decades, which is 11 years prior to the first iPhone being invented. Given how much technology has evolved since then and how much we rely on it within our schools, and especially with the introduction of more powerful 5G networks, these outdated guidelines may not be adequate in addressing the risks posed by these new, more intense forms of radiation. 5G in particular is still very new, and we don't yet fully understand its long-term effects, especially in environments where children are spending a significant amount of time. Moreover, the American Academy of Pediatrics has expressed concern about the potential health risks of electromagnetic radiation for children. They emphasize that children are particularly vulnerable to the effects of radiation and that caution should be exercised when it comes to exposure, especially in school environments. There's also a growing national movement advocating for the removal or restriction of these technologies from school properties. Communities across the country are raising awareness about the potential dangers, and many are taking steps to protect their children. I believe we have a unique opportunity to join the movement here in Sparta, and by taking action on this issue, we could position Sparta as a leader in New Jersey, setting an example for other districts. One effective way forward could be to partner with the town council to support a resolution that bans not only cell phone towers, but all forms of signal boosting technology from our school grounds. This would allow us to prioritize the health and safety of our students, create a safe environment for learning, and align with the growing national movement to protect our children from unnecessary exposure. Our schools should be places where students and staff feel safe, focused, and inspired to learn. The presence of large industrial structures or signal boosting technologies could detract from that mission, and it's important we consider the long-term impact on our community. So with all that said, I'd like to propose that we move forward in the coming year with considering a resolution to ban further installation of cell phone antennas and other signal boosting technologies on our school properties. And I look forward to discussing it either tonight or with the new board once we have that next month.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's appropriate for us to have this conversation, but since it's been raised, Mark, maybe you can weigh in. Are we free to discuss as it's been moved to two committees and is now being discussed in new business? What would you say are the parameters for
Yeah.
this discussion to take place?
So
properly?
I think a general discussion is fine. In closed session, we talked about some of the legal issues, so I would just be mindful of those things that we brought up under legal in closed session in terms of what we bring out with the public tonight.
Fair. So that being said, the only point that I want to make is I understand that this has been brought up at 2 town council meetings now. There was ironically a very similar proposal. It was a request for an ordinance banning 5G towers on school property. And while I know Ms. McMichael has expanded the terminology a bit, I want us to make sure that, and again, I want to reiterate because this is something I've been saying consistently, I think that we need to tread very lightly with this discussion for confidentiality purposes and to what Mark just spoke to. But the other thing is I think it's important that we don't form preconceived notions about something before we have the opportunity to really analyze data and specs. And it's important that we approach any decision weighing the pros and cons adequately and also making sure that we have an informed decision. And right now, I don't think we are anywhere near the phase of being able to say we're in that position in light of one matter in particular, which we won't go into specifics on. So while I'm sure that this is going to be a discussion that takes place quite a bit in the future, and I would absolutely advocate for involving the public in any decision-making or at least weighing that as much as possible, I just want to make sure that we are also not causing unwarranted alarm and that, again, we're treading lightly with how we present this information, making sure that we have accurate information to present to the public, because that's literally in our code of ethics to make sure that we're presenting accurate information to the public. And with the way that some of the terminology is being thrown out right now in these meetings and at town council, I'm just not sure that that's what we're accomplishing. So while I'm certainly respectful of the idea that there are board members that have very strong opinions on this matter, I think that we need to approach every decision weighing all pros and cons, and especially weighing all of the specs and data before we actually come to a decision. So that's all I'll say about that.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything for new business? No? Okay, moving on to public comment. Number 2. The board uses second public comment to invite comments on all matters pertaining to the school district. Please state your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate. For the record, each participant will be given 3 minutes to speak. Once you have your allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The board or administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of public participation.
Good evening. My name is Angela DeLucia, and I am the very proud president of the Sparta Education Association and Sussex County Education Association. As we close out 2024, the SEA would like to thank Craig Palesci, Vanessa Serrano, and Wendy Solander for their service and dedication to the board and their dedication to the students and the school community as a whole. We'd also like to wish Joanne Black the very best in her retirement and thank her for her very hard work. We'd also like to wish the most very, very, very happy retirement to Kelly Miller, our SEA treasurer, Pam Conlon, Andrea Santora, and Mike Willey. The governor's educators and support professionals of the year have been announced, and we do look forward to the February board meeting when they will be recognized. Sparta educators are truly amazing, and we are so proud of each and every one of this year's award recipients. Since the inception of the Ideas Committee, the SEA feels that not only communication has improved, but proactivity and productivity have as well. Policies, procedures, and activities that have benefited the entire school community have originated through ideas. The latest example of this is the Day of Discovery. The SEA partnered with community members to provide a glimpse of what it's like to be a teacher for a day. We hope that this will be a yearly program to involve more community members and SEA members next year. Thank you to all the educators and community partners who participated. At the state level, the SEA would be remiss if we did not acknowledge Governor Murphy signing the Freedom to Read Act into law. As educators and support professionals, we are fierce advocates for intellectual freedom, the ability for individuals and families to choose books that are best for them, and the belief that librarians are professionals and should be able to do their jobs free from persecution and prosecution. And it is my honor to share that Sparta will be represented on the Department of Education committee that will be drafting the model policy for all New Jersey schools to use. We know that December is a busy time of year for the entire school community: concerts, programs, athletics, competitions. The SEA takes great pride in everything we do, all while maintaining stellar academic instruction and unwavering support for our students. Additionally, throughout the district, each building has participated in a Spirit Week celebration. This just further shows our members' dedication to a positive learning environment. Our goal for the new year is to keep the momentum going. The bar has been set high, but SEA is up for the challenge. On behalf of the entire association, we wish the board, the administration, and the entire Sparta School community the happiest and healthiest holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jenny Derrick, Step into Sparta. Just two quick things. Chad, I looked, the board goal, your goals are not?
No, after tonight, they'll be.
After tonight, great, thank you. And then a question about the IT plan. I haven't had a chance to read through the whole thing, so maybe it's captured in there. But was there discussion, or where did the new restrictions or interest in restricting screen times with the support of the mental health concerns that we heard about in previous months, was that part of the plan, part of the discussion, and how will it be, how does that show up in that plan? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, motion to close.
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Second?
Second.
Thank you.
So I think you're referring to the cell phone initiative that we have started in terms of like restrictions or balance with.
How did it interact with the IT plan? Was there a discussion about?
Yes, so it was a really phenomenal process, but we started, the IT plan was sort of, the technology plan was in development, but it takes time, as you know, Mr. Rivers was sharing in terms of like the process and procedures, getting feedback, so on and so forth. But what was urgent at the time was looking at the impacts specifically of cell phones on instruction. And so we started a committee. It's a committee that we have active called the CARES Committee, the CARE team, and that is comprised of several different stakeholders. Jane Esposito, who leads our line program, Dr. Beck, myself, instructionally, and we have other stakeholders who are a part of that team. We look at circumstances through different lenses, and that's when we really developed or recognized that sort of looking at devices, the use of devices and the restriction of that was like of utmost priority, and that the research that we were doing also dictated that there was like a real starting point for that, which was the beginning of the school year. So that wasn't something you could start working on in January. And so that took priority while the tech plan was being developed, but that really falls under the concept of like balancing digital learning and interpersonal experiences. So while it's not in the tech plan, because it was something actually we had to accomplish much faster than we could roll out the technology plan, with the urgency of starting the school year off with those practices in place and the policy revisions, that had a different time frame unto itself. So it's something that is in practice right now. We're constantly checking in on it, getting feedback. It's going very well. We consistently talk with the administration to understand how things are progressing, but it's been a very positive experience so far. So even though that relates to one of those major goals, it was something that needed to be kind of handled separately due to the urgency of time. Yep.
Thank you. Moving on to the good of the order. I'll kick it off. I just want to congratulate Joanne on her retirement. Even though it was short-lived working with you, I know I was, from time to time, a thorn in your side, but we worked well together, and I appreciated everything you've done and brought to the district, so congratulations. The day of discovery, it was, I agree, it was a success. I was one of the board members who was able to participate. I did it right in this school here, third grade. I taught ELA all day, three-letter blended words. I learned a lot. It was very fun, but it was good to see the ins and outs of the day and what the teachers do and prep time and everything. So it was definitely a good day. And the ones who, I know a lot of people did do it, and so I see it going further and branching out. So thanks to the Ideas Committee and getting that off to the ground. It was a great idea Angela and I came up with, and thank you. That's all.
Joanne, thank you so much. And on behalf of the entire board, Dr. Beck, Ms. Rossi, and also Mark, we have something to present for you. It's very heavy. Thank you so much for all you've done for all of us.
Matt will carry it out for you. Yeah.
So I just have a couple of things to say as my last meeting. Obviously, Joanne, thank you so much. You're going to be terribly missed. It was a pleasure working with you. I do want to start by thanking my fellow board members, those who are sitting here at the table with me tonight and those who have served alongside me over the past few years. I also want to express my gratitude to the Board of Education office, the district staff, all of the educators who make this district what it is. I would also be remiss not to thank the community members as well. Whether you watched our meetings from home, emailed us, or joined us in person, whether in agreement or disagreement, your participation in shaping the future of the district has been incredibly important, and we appreciate it. Vanessa, it's been 4 years for you, I think, and Craig, 3.5 for both of us. When we first took our oaths, I don't think any of us could have fully anticipated what journey we were about to embark on. Looking back, it's pretty clear that we served the district during some of the most tumultuous times our district has ever faced, and I am deeply grateful to have been sitting at this table alongside both of you this entire time. As I step away, I wish nothing but the best for Dr. Beck and Ms. Rossi as you continue to lead our district. The same goes for all of the administrators and teachers, returning board members, and new board members who are going to be joining next month. It has been a true pleasure serving the district and working with so many incredible people over the last 3.5 years, so thank you.
Since she said it all already, but Dr. Beck, Joanne, and Tara, thank you so much for working alongside of us. You know, there were some rough times and some not so rough times, but I really thank everyone for allowing me to sit in this seat. It's not easy, but we got through it. Angela, the day of discovery was amazing. As per Dawn Hoffman, I am grandfathered in, and I'm allowed to do it next year. She said I can. But thank you. It really was amazing. And as an educator in a different district, it's nice to see what goes on at my kids' schools, really. And really, the teachers were nothing but amazing. I was in a home ec class, and there were a lot of students in that class. And the way that teacher rotated those children, it was like, I mean, it was like a well-oiled machine. And phys ed, forget it. Well, I learned archery, I will say that. So at least if this gig doesn't work out, I know I can go do archery. But thank you again for putting that together.
Joanne, congratulations and good luck. It was an absolute pleasure being on the finance committee and being able to work closely. You were able to teach me a lot over the last few years, so I do appreciate it and wish you very good luck. It's been an honor to serve current board members, past board members, being able to learn from the various experiences that the different board members over the years have brought to the table has been extremely valuable. I mean, it's been really neat to spend time with such a wide range of personal and professional experiences. So that was really neat for me. Mark, also been a pleasure. Thank you for everything. Matt and Tara, it's been really great to see you both grow, you know, as leaders for the district and grow into your positions. I mean, I think, Matt, we came, you know, Wendy and I came on 2 months maybe after you started. So it's been really great to see you grow. The school district is in amazing hands moving forward. So thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
So I'm just going to jump in here now, too. If you could see me behind my books and the flowers and everything. But anyway, I really want to thank you for the opportunity to work here and with all of you and to serve the district as well as the students and the staff in Sparta. I couldn't ask for a better finish to my career, really. It's just been an amazing experience. Short-lived, but I hope I made a positive impact. And look, your reserves are up. They're surplus, so that's my parting gift. But anyway, thank you again. It really has been a wonderful experience for me. So.
I just want to echo everyone's appreciation for Joanne, Vanessa, Wendy, and Craig. It's been amazing working for you guys and with you guys, even though it's been a short period of time. And I really appreciate how much I've learned from all of you in this time. And on another note, I want to shout out Sparta Middle School, who's getting ready to put on their January production of Alice in Wonderland Jr. Check it out, January 17th through 19th. Their shows, I'm a big fan of the middle school shows. They're great. They're really just entertaining, and those kids really put on a great show in such a short period of time.
I'm going to do the same thing, but I'll keep it super quick. I had written out that I want to thank Craig, Wendy, and Vanessa for their service to Sparta over the last few years. I know there were quite a few meetings where I was sitting on the other side, and I know at times I was pretty critical of some of the ways in which the places where I felt our district was heading, but I really appreciate you guys for sticking it through. I think it was very commendable, especially you spoke to some of the challenges and some of the difficult years, and global pandemic is one of them. So for staying in and advocating for our students, our children, I really do appreciate that. And I know maybe I wasn't the best at always expressing it, but I did appreciate you even then. Another thing I would also like to say is the tech plan. I just want to thank Ms. Rossi and Mr. Rivers, because seeing it, I know this has been a really long time coming, and it's been an initiative you guys have been working on behind the scenes for quite some time. But even reading through some of the sample goals, just as a parent, it seems like we have a lot to look forward to. So I thank you, and I really respect the work that you've done, and it clearly shows in the presentation tonight, and anything we can do to support it, we're going to look forward to that. And then to also mimic Dr. Beck, we just want to wish everyone a happy holiday and a safe winter break. So thank you.
And not to beat a dead horse, but yet I appreciate the warm welcome I got as a student rep, and it has been nice to take these last 2 years with all you guys, especially the ones that are leaving now. And also just give a final shout out to Ms. DeLucia and the Day of Discovery plan. Come on now, couldn't forget that. It was really nice to see the operational level that the high school had, and I will say that since COVID, it definitely returning back to a more normal state. Things are definitely more back in motion, more fluid. The cell phone ban policy, although not all students are very happy, there's way more students talking in class, and you can already see the difference, even if they can't see the difference. So we appreciate the work that you're doing.
Is anyone else for the good of the order? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you, Wendy. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Video.